Until the late 90s, the San Antonio Spurs was an organization that despite their efforts to reach the top of the NBA, the team wasn't in a position to fulfill that goal. They were starting the seasons with great optimism, but a combination of factors didn't allow them to win an NBA championship, although they were finishing the regular season with remarkable records. Truth is that the first half of the 90s was marked with a lack of stability as there were many managerial and administrative changes. Often, talented players like Dennis Rodman couldn't collaborate with their teammates and were being traded to other teams, weakening San Antonio in the process. Sometimes tough opponents like the Houston Rockets in the 1995 Western Conference Finals were blocking their road. Other times, injuries of crucial players like David Robinson ruined their ambitions. So, if you take into consideration all those factors, it's easy to understand why the road to the top was so difficult for the Spurs. But which are those moments that changed the history of the San Antonio Spurs? What transformed them from an ambitious side to a dominant team, a team that could go all the way and compete in multiple NBA finals the next years? The coming of Gregg Popovic after a disastrous 13-15 start in the 1996-1997 season was going to be fundamental for the success of the following years. He had all the skills and requirements like discipline, experience, hard work, and innovative basketball philosophy to make the Spurs more competitive than ever before. As it happens most of the time, bad things happen for a reason in life and in sports. Popovic didn't have an ideal first season in Texas, and San Antonio finished with the third worst record in the NBA, but this allowed them to win the NBA draft lottery and select Tim Duncan with the first overall pick in the 1997 NBA draft. No one could imagine back then that this selection would change the NBA forever. The number one pick in the 1987 NBA draft, David Robinson, who was 32, teamed up with the number one pick of the 1997 NBA draft, a 21-year-old Tim Duncan, who ended up being the greatest power forward that has ever played in the NBA. Both selected from the San Antonio Spurs, they spent their whole careers with the team. David and Tim had an excellent relationship and they formed a scary duo which led journalists to give them the nickname Twin Towers. 1995 NBA MVP Robinson helped Duncan to improve his game and cope with the NBA requirements. This led Tim to a Rookie of the Year award and a selection to the All-NBA First Team. What an honor and a fantastic start in the career of a rookie. As you understand, the time for a championship run had come for the San Antonio Spurs and they reached their first ever NBA Finals in 1999. Their opponents, the New York Knicks, who reached the finals from the 8th seed, despite their admirable efforts, couldn't help but win only one game in the series. San Antonio was for the first time in its history NBA champions and Tim Duncan was named NBA Finals MVP. He was only 23. As the time was passing by and the legendary David Robinson was growing older, everyone in San Antonio knew that after his upcoming retirement they should find a replacement to put next to Tim Duncan. And if you consider that the Los Angeles Lakers consisted of Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal, you see why the Spurs had to build a great team both offensively and defensively. A 19-year-old Frenchman, Tony Parker, joined San Antonio in 2001 as he was elected with the 26th pick in the 2001 NBA draft. 1 year later, Manu Ginobili from Argentina became a member of the team as he decided to leave Italy and European basketball in his 25th year of age and joined the team that selected him with the 57th pick earlier in the 1999 NBA draft. Popovic showed to both players his trust and admiration and they didn't disappoint him. Parker became an excellent point guard and Ginobili evolved to one of the best sixth men in the history of NBA. The 2002-2003 NBA season was the first season that these three players played together, the Big Three of San Antonio as they were going to be named the following years. It was also the last year in the NBA for the great David Robinson and everyone in Texas wanted to celebrate another title with him before he retired. In the Western Conference semi-finals, San Antonio took revenge from the Los Angeles Lakers for their painful losses the previous 2 years. No one could stop the Spurs from claiming their second championship, and after they defeated the New Jersey Nets, Tim Duncan received his second NBA Finals MVP award. It was a great season for Tim, as he was earlier named NBA regular season MVP for the second consecutive season in his career. The following season, San Antonio wanted to go all the way for the repeat, but to do so they had to beat the Los Angeles Lakers in the Western Conference semi-finals. Although they clinched the first 2 games of the series, Lakers won back-to-back games in LA, and in Game 5, something amazing happened. With the Spurs up in front with 73-72 and with 0.4 seconds remaining in the clock, Derek Fisher scored an incredible game-winning buzzer beater that Spurs fans will never forget. Spurs couldn't make a break at the Staples Center a few days later, and their dream for the first repeat was over. 1 year later, the Detroit Pistons was the team that was trying to repeat. They faced San Antonio in the NBA Finals, and after 6 heartbreaking games, the championship was determined in a Game 7 where San Antonio captured its 3rd title in a span of 7 years. Tim Duncan was named once again NBA Finals MVP for the 3rd time in his career, leaving Manu Ginobili a few votes behind. After an amazing season for the Big Three and a regular season record of 63 wins and 19 losses, which was a franchise record at the time, everyone believed that 2006 was the year for San Antonio to finally make the repeat. But what a coincidence, another Game 7 was in their way, and this time the opponent was the Dallas Mavericks in the 2nd round. The battle between 2 of the greatest power forwards of all time, Dirk Nowitzki and Tim Duncan, was legendary, and we suggest that you spend a few minutes to watch the duel between the two in Game 7 if you haven't already done that. For the history, the German superstar led Dallas to the NBA Finals, and the Big Three of San Antonio, for yet another season, didn't repeat. If there's a lesson we can learn from the San Antonio Spurs of that era is that even great teams aren't always in a position to win, but after every single defeat, they were working harder and harder, and they showed up even better the following year, ready for revenge. So, in 2007, they had another chance of becoming NBA champions, and they achieved that more easily than ever before. A 4-0 sweep against the Cleveland Cavaliers led by LeBron James. It was time for Tony Parker to receive his first Finals MVP award, totally deserved after his marvelous performances. The next 6 years weren't easy for the Spurs as they lost crucial series against the Los Angeles Lakers and the Oklahoma City Thunder, but this fact didn't create cracks to their relationships, and none of them asked for a trade during those years. Their loyalty and discipline brought them a chance of a 4th NBA championship as a trio. They were facing the defending champions, the Miami Heat, in the 2013 NBA Finals, and the Big Three of LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. In Game 6, with San Antonio leading the series 3-2, they had to secure a 5-point lead in the last 28 seconds to be crowned NBA champions once again. Things didn't go well for the Spurs at those last seconds. The infamous 3-pointer from Ray Allen sent the game to overtime, and Game 6 was won by Miami. In Game 7, the Spurs players were obviously affected by the loss in the previous game and couldn't stop Miami from reaching back-to-back NBA championships and LeBron James from taking his revenge from the Big Three 6 years later. Gregg Popovic was under big pressure, and most of the journalists criticized him for benching Tim Duncan during the last seconds of Game 6 and for not fouling, preventing Ray Allen from hitting that 3-pointer from the corner. Every Spurs player admitted that this was the worst moment in their careers, but as we said many times earlier, if you don't give up and try your best, there'll always be a second chance in life. And surely Popovic and the San Antonio players aren't quitters. Every single day of the 2013-2014 season, they had in mind their defeat, and they were determined to do everything to reach once again the NBA Finals. They produced a remarkable style of play, and their passing game couldn't be stopped throughout the season by any NBA team. Many mention that 2013-2014 was a peak season for the Big Three, who alongside NBA Finals MVP Kawhi Leonard nearly swept the Miami Heat as they secured their 5th ring with an emphatic 4-1 win. That's dominance. 2015-2016 was the last season in which Duncan, Parker and Ginobili played together. They finished the season with 67 wins and 15 losses, only behind the historical 73-9 record of the Golden State Warriors. Duncan's last NBA game was a playoff match against the Oklahoma City Thunder, where San Antonio lost the series 4-2. It was time for the greatest power forward of all time to retire from basketball with a decorated career that many players around the world would be jealous of. That was also the end of an era for the San Antonio Spurs, a team that saw its history changing with these 3 players. Ginobili retired in 2018 and Parker in 2019, and everyone remembers that besides being great teammates, they were great friends as well, and maybe this was the key to their chemistry and success in courts. They had major respect for each other, trust in their coaches' choices, and they never put themselves above the team. How many players with the class of Manu Ginobili would accept not starting for their team, or how many superstars like Tim Duncan will be benched most of the times in the fourth quarter and wouldn't like to chase records? Tony Parker, during his retirement speech, stated that he misses the time they were playing together, but he knows Tim and Manu will forever be his family. That's more important than basketball. Thanks for watching.